In this factory tour, Enoch catches up with Wes from SHW Off-Road to talk about their drawer systems and how they use lean manufacturing to build high-quality gear. We'll also get a behind-the-scenes look at their factory and pick up some great advice for anyone getting into the overlanding world. And this episode is brought to you by More EXPO.
So this is our Expedition series. This is back in the back of my 100 series Land Cruiser. It's got full extension drawers. It has options for cutting boards or for tabletops. I've got the tabletop here. All the drawers lock in, lock out. It's got a tilting fridge slide. Unfortunately, I can't tilt it right now because I still have all my gear from EXPO East in the back there over top of the tilting mechanism. But it makes it a lot easier. Instead of your fridge just coming straight out and being tall, it comes out, tilts down to where you can easily reach into it. And this was kind of the design that started the whole company, the tilting fridge slide mechanism. But beyond the drawer systems, we also do seat deletes, drawer systems for the back of trucks, camper build outs, pretty much anything when you think of vehicle and organization. When those two things come together, that's kind of where our company, comes in and takes care of it all.
Absolutely. That's really, really cool. So when you first started getting into this thought process, what were the challenges that you came up to, or let me rephrase that, why did you decide to do this? Were you unable to find the items that you were looking for your design and your intended use?
Yeah.
Because there's never a perfect product for everybody.
And, I've always been a maker. Before I started SHW Off-Road, I had a YouTube channel, Shawnee Hill's Workshop.
Okay.
Making stuff, and even, going back, I've had a drawer system or something similar in my vehicle since I've been driving, or, building a stereo system. So I've always been a maker. But then on top of that, I'm kind of short. Off-road vehicles are kind of tall.
Fair.
I was really struggling getting into the fridge, and my wife's even shorter than I am. And, there's mechanisms that are sold that come out and drop straight down, but they still don't solve the problem that you're still
trying to
get in there. It's lower than what it is there, but when it comes down and tilts down, you're looking into the fridge. And the other thing was, like, everything that I saw that was made, it was either Chinese and didn't have full extension drawer slides, and it was very, very heavy, or
you could tell that corners were cut.
Or some of the products that are really quality products, I felt like they were really over-engineered and very, like the fridge slide that was dropping down that I was telling you about. It's a great product. It's really well-built product, but if it breaks in the field, you're not going to find that part to fix it.
Right, because that's like drop down, hinges.
It is custom made, everything. So the number one goal when I started making stuff for myself, and I've continued it when I started, the business, is every part on here you should be able to find in a hardware store anywhere in America. Quarter 20 bolts. I won't use anything but quarter 20 unless I'm forced to. And if I'm forced to use something else, it's still a standard size bolt.
Okay.
All hinges are hinges that you can get, like the tilting mechanism is a piano hinge and a nylon limiting strap that is bolted on with quarter 20s.
Perfect.
So
it's like the simplicity,
Yeah, you should be able to field service it anywhere that we can. Obviously, if the locking drawer slide goes out, you're probably not going to find a locking drawer slide there, but it shouldn't break to where it's unusable. It might just be, all right, I got to limp it till I get back home and can order one.
Right.
It's which that being
It'll
said,
still make it off the trail, though.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be that your fridge slide breaks and now you can't use your fridge anymore. You're having to pull it out and to be able to get to it.
Right.
And that's just, we want it to be serviceable. That's
I think that's a big part that a lot of companies have foregone. They decided that at some point that our service team should do all the work for you. You're not really supposed to touch any of the stuff. And then you can tell by the way they design it and the complexity, as you were saying, like you can't get to things that might break unless you tear apart the whole entire thing.
Lots of times it's a money issue, to where it's like cheaper for them to manufacture that way. Sometimes it is, and I have to catch myself too, as when you're designing something, you want to design it cool and have all these mechanisms and it's fun.
Yep.
But you kind of got to hold the brakes and be like, all right, is this necessary?
Right.
So that's
absolutely.
We try to put more focus on the actual materials and get really high-end materials as opposed to focusing on fancy mechanisms and things like that.
Nice. And like I kind of said earlier, is like over-engineering things to a point is good, but there is always that point where you're negating the benefits. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's
So,
a fine line too.
yeah, yeah. And finding that a product that's serviceable and, you know, easily replaceable as far as like the components and stuff like that. That's a really, really good tack to take, especially in our community.
Yeah.
You know, very self-sufficient, self-reliant community.
And where we're beating stuff to death.
Yeah, yeah. We find a few bumpy roads, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, you know, the fact is mechanisms don't like to be shaken, and
Yeah.
that's what we're doing to them. You know, so they're going to have wear and tear on them. The first drawer system I ever built for overlanding, it was a personal one, and it had kitchen slides on it. 100-pound rated. I thought it would be fine.
Yep.
Yeah, after about, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it, I realized, all right, we've got to find a lot heavier duty slides. These aren't built. They're built to be in a kitchen that's stationary.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. My first, you know, what I consider the traditional overland build, you know, you do the drawers with the thing up top and a little pull out. It's like maybe one drawer for the cooker.
Yeah.
All of that was kitchen, like slow closing. Cause I was like, oh, that'll lock it. Pops right out.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and I'm glad you actually mentioned that. You know, the first overland drawer system most people build is just like what you were talking about. Usually several nested drawers that come out. Looks great in Instagram pictures.
Absolutely.
But it is the largest waste of weight and space. Anytime you nest drawers, you're losing weight or space each time. And each time you add a drawer slide, you're adding weight each time. And built so many vehicles, and, you know, was used to be a partner in a company that built vehicles. And you see that you're constantly having to add springs, add, you know, suspension to be able to hold the weight, add power brakes up front to be able to stop the weight. When, you know, you can just, if you're smart about the way you build your vehicle, you can keep the weight out to begin with. And that's where, you know, the Ultralight drawers came from, you know, our other series of drawers, and the plywood that we use, which it's very expensive, but in my mind, it's worth it.
Gotcha. So you mentioned an ultralight version of this.
Yeah.
Does that basically, you utilizing the same CNC style cutting and everything, and it's just a better, higher quality material?
So same material for the plywood. We're using the same ultralight plywood. The big difference is, so like these hinges, or these wings, are on hinges.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The ultralight's not going to have hinges because hardware adds weight.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could eliminate 50 pounds by removing all the unnecessary.
And we actually, so this drawer system weighs about 160 pounds. The ultralight version weighs around 70 pounds. So it's almost 100 pounds just by reducing, you know, it doesn't have latches on it. It's going to have a hole cut out for a handle. It doesn't have full extension drawer slides on it. It's running on UHMW runners, which is, you know, an industrial Teflon is what we refer to it as. It has a passive latching system, so it'll still hold itself shut with no rattles. It does not have the fridge slide on it. It's just two drawers. But the thing I like the most about it is the drawers come all the way out, and we have a handle cut at the front and the back. So, you know, you pull it out. It's a tote.
That's handy.
Yeah.
That's super handy.
So you take it into the house, load it up, or take it, if you got your kitchen stuff, take it to the picnic table. Or we have some customers that end up ordering extra drawers, and they'll keep a drawer with their kids, you know, sports stuff in it, and they're camping another, and they just switch the drawers out.
I got it. So, you've got staged, basically sport boxes or activity boxes, and you're just
whatever it is you're doing,
out.
and you shuffle what you want in. So maybe they keep their kitchen one in all the time, but if they're going backpacking, they put one in, or if they're going overlanding, car camping, they use another one. And that was actually something I never even thought of when we were designing the product. You know, customer one day just asked, can we order more drawers? And then all of a sudden, you know, more people were doing it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's it. And yeah, if you've got the space, you got the garage space, you're able to like, you know, set up those kind of scenarios. I mean, imagine this time you would save. You just, all right, let's go, guys.
Yeah.
Just drop it and go.
And, you know, it's amazing how fast they pull out as fast as you can open them, put the new one back in. That product actually started out as we were trying to come up with a economy product that could compete with the Chinese drawers. And so, you know, at that time, all Chinese drawers were around $1,200. And we're like, all right, what can we do to do this? So we're just cutting out money. We weren't cutting out weight. Well, then about 75% through the process, we're like, hey, you know, this is actually a good product. Like, this has got some good aspects to it. And that's when the things like the handle at the back, and the whole idea of the product started going a different route. But it still ended up coming in at a cheap price, or a economical price, because you're not buying all that expensive hardware. Drawer slides are expensive. these latches are expensive.
Yep.
And it just adds to the cost. And the only thing in my mind that you don't get is if you're going to want to have your fridge in the back, you lose that, tilting capability. But from every other aspect, I actually prefer the Ultralight. Mostly because it's light.
The weight savings is, you know us, we're always battling.
Yeah.
To how big of a leaf pack do I need, or how big of a coil do I need? For whatever reason, I'm at 800 pounds over what I initially thought I was going to be at.
Yep.
Through the different build outs on our vehicle, it very quickly, it's surprising how important the suspension becomes when you start doing these build outs, these stagnant weight, just constantly in there.
Yep. The first system I ever built for this vehicle, it was the first main system that had the tilting fridge slide in it. Mm-hmm. It was built from different materials, but the overall design was basically the same, and it was 230 pounds empty.
Oh, wow.
And just to get this down to 170, 160, 170, right. That's a huge amount.
Yeah, 50 pounds, massive.
That's 50 more pounds of gear you can carry instead of just having it in just a drawer system.
Yep.
And then it's something that a lot of companies don't even publish their weight. Some that are really good quality, they're just heavy because they're made out of steel. They're made with, big roller bearings. They don't roll out all the way, but it's cheaper to cut real thick steel and put some roller bearings on it, some skateboard wheels on, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
And, that's how they keep their costs down. But, they're all going to weigh more than even that first system that I had.
Right.
On the 100 series, it's the only SUV that has a tailgate, so it limits how much we can tilt.
That makes sense.
So typically we tilt 30 degrees because, a compressor can stand up to 37 degrees while it's running to be tilted. So we limit it to 30 degrees. On here, we're probably somewhere around the 17, 18 degrees because of the tailgate.
Gotcha. And in this scenario, based on your design, essentially anyone could make this platform tilt whatever degree they want.
Oh yeah, just
right? And
make the strap longer or shorter.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they get into their vehicle, here's the factory length strap, you just undo the bolt, bring it down, and then restrap, put a little hole, run it back through, and you've got the right angle that you need.
Exactly. We tell people that I had one to where I did it at about 40 degrees. But that being said, if I had my refrigerator down and I heard the compressor turn on, I put my fridge back up. You don't want to run these at 40, more than the 37 degrees, or you'll have oil won't return back to the compressor and you're going to damage your refrigerator.
Okay.
And
that's just the compressor limitations, right?
Yeah, that's
pretty much traditional across the board.
That's going to be, pretty much everybody's heard about, if you lay your refrigerator flat in the bed of your truck, stand it up for 24 hours, and that's for the oil to settle.
Gotcha.
So it's all about oil return. My background is actually in refrigeration from as engineering before I started this, and we had to deal a lot with compressors dying. I'll tell you what, a lot of people, they would take their refrigerator home from Lowe's in the bed of their truck, stand it up, plug it in, and then within a few days, they got a dead compressor.
That's really cool. I like that. Again, the not over-engineering, it's everything you need and nothing you don't.
Yeah, it's very simple, made out of parts you can get at the hardware store. But yeah, it's my favorite part about it. And it's even better when we're not on an angle right here going down. But it makes it to where I can see in the refrigerator. And like I said, especially if you don't have the tailgate and you can go the full 37 degrees, it's like it's presenting itself to you, so you can see everything down in there.
All right, so now we're coming in to the factory shop, however you want to look at it. And he's going to bring us through some of the materials and how they accomplish making the amazing products that they do.
The plywood that we use is all imported from Spain, and we actually don't have a lot right now because the port shut down in the beginning of October.
Yes.
And we had some that was literally had just arrived and sitting there. So, hopefully we'll have it this week.
Waiting.
Yeah,
nice.
We've actually been without 3/4 inch plywood for like a week now. And luckily we had some fiberglass that we could cut.
Nice.
So what I alluded to earlier is all the materials we use, our number one focus is weight. It has to be a good product. It can't be a crappy product and lightweight. We want it to be good first, and then we try to find the lightest we can. So
Absolutely.
Everything that goes inside of a vehicle, we're using a plywood that we import from Spain. It's the lightest birch plywood in the world. As an example, a sheet of 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood weighs about 110 pounds.
Okay.
That's what most shops use if they're using wood.
That's what I used on my build.
It's an incredible wood. When I worked as a cabinet maker years ago, That's all we used. It's high quality and I love it, but it's the heaviest birch plywood. This birch plywood weighs 43 pounds per sheet. So that's
Oh, wow.
a little over 60 pounds difference. Now we add a little bit more weight to it once we laminate our Ultraliner finish on it, because after we get it from Spain, it hits the port, it then goes to Pennsylvania, gets the Ultraliner, the black texture finish pressed on it, and we use pressure sensitive glue. So it's a 60-ton press that presses it on so it won't delaminate in the heat of a vehicle.
Gotcha.
And then it comes to us. But then for anything that's outside, like in the bed of a truck, we use fiberglass. So it's all a fiberglass foam composite, and it also weighs about 38 pounds per sheet, so it's a little under what the weight of the plywood is.
In those different materials, that's really based on just the use case that it's for. But as
I
far
don't
as
want to put plywood
strength and all
outside.
that, it's all kind of...
They're very similar. Now, the fiberglass is going to be a stronger braking strength, but it's going to flex more just by the nature of it. You think of a boat, how it's built to like flex through water and twist. So you can bend it a long way before it will actually break. The only downside to the fiberglass is probably its puncture strength. Like if you were to take something really sharp, heavy,
hit it,
poke through it, you could probably get through it. But the good thing about the fiberglass is no rot, no mildew, no rust. You know, it's just, even if you were to get through our bedliner finish we put on it, it really doesn't matter.
It's still solid.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. So when you first started launching this idea, I assume you did a lot of this stuff in-house. So you sprayed this stuff all in-house, and now you're working with other companies to perform some of those tasks. How is that working out with the new, like your new systems and processes?
So we used to bedline everything. Every product got completely built, and then once it was built, glued, nailed, or screwed, however we assembled it, then we would spray it and send it out. And we all did that all in-house. I don't miss those days at all. Spraying bedliner is nasty. The issue that we had, and that I think most people that spray bedliner has, is, you know, if today it's 2 degrees warmer than it was yesterday, or tomorrow there's more humidity or whatever, it's hard to get a consistent over and over again finish.
That's fair.
Which made it impossible for us to take the product to the next step, to where we could flat pack and make it to where if a customer damages a part or part gets damaged in shipping, we could replace a part. Because before, if we did it while we bedlined, which we tried for a very short period of time, you could never have it match when you replaced a part.
Gotcha.
So that's where we switched over to the Ultraliner.
When you on the match part, you mean like visually?
Visually.
Gotcha. Because the spray is so
It's just
hard
different.
to...
The texture's a little different. The color's a little different.
Gotcha.
And I got to the point where I was spraying every single part myself, because I thought, you know,
if I did it,
if I do it, I can do it. I can get it. And even from one side of the paint booth to the other, you know, your arm's moving a little bit faster, or you're a couple inches further away than you were when you started. You would just see those differences. Whereas with the Ultraliner, we can get a consistent piece, and we put a serial number on every Ultraliner product now, to where we can pull up exactly what you ordered, and let's say 2 years from now you've got a damaged piece, we can just send you a new part. Right. The only product we still bedline is the fiberglass product, and that's basically just because I have tried to, you know, come up with something that's better, but as of right now, it's still the best answer. But we do outsource all that now. We outsource it. The company used to be Line-X, but Line-X is going through some issues, so I'm not sure what brand it's being sprayed right now.
Going through some transition there.
But it is so much better.
Nice.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're doing nothing but spraying bedliner every day, and they have a much larger controlled space, and it's just turning out to be a better product. So.
Awesome. Yeah, consistency is key, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to make mass-produced products.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I also don't like the bedliner so hard to clean.
That's just facts.
It looks great day one.
You don't like that little crevice that you can't get into? It's just filled up with dirt or sand.
The Ultraliner, even though it's textured, you can clean it off and make it look like new. I liken it to the, every time I buy a truck, I buy the vinyl floors in the truck. I don't want carpet because even on my dirty old farm truck that is 20-some years old, when we clean it, we can make that vinyl look brand new. Right. It's shiny as it can be, and it's the same with the Ultraliner. Yep. You can just clean it up and make it look new.
Nice. What's the kind of turnaround time for that on their end? So they get your product to prep, you know, put the coatings on?
It's usually a week or two, depending on how busy they are.
Okay.
You know, they're spraying every day. So typically we'll
So
drive
it just
it
goes
down.
into the line and
Yeah.
they just
But
roll it through.
most of the time we drop it off 1 week and the next week we're going to pick it back up.
Nice. So good quick turnaround times for the most part. Obviously we could always hope for the next day, but that's unrealistic. That's super cool. And going in like that same thought process around timelines, how long does it take you to kind of assemble these products? Like what's the process you have to go through? You get a piece of plywood in, and then where do we go from that? That piece of plywood is here.
Yeah.
Now what happens?
So typically we'll go from, we'll have a 3/4 inch plywood and 1/2 inch plywood stacked up.
And this is all going to be wrapped in the
Ultraliner.
The Ultraliner. Okay.
Yep. And then we've got the fiberglass right up above it. So for anything that's Ultraliner, it's going to be flat packed. So we'll take it from here. We'll come over and, we'll bring the whole stack here and we'll just start cutting them on the CNC.
So you just, this little machine here, like little fork, just kind of rolls
little
over.
forklift. We bring it right here.
So you're not picking up the 200 pound pieces of board, or not even that. What did you say? I'm sorry, 65?
About 40. The sheet's going to be about 43 pounds.
43 pounds. Okay.
But even that gets old. At our last shop, I had to lift every single sheet of plywood. A man had to carry it. We could fork it off the truck, but we couldn't get it back to where the CNC was at.
Gotcha.
And I got a pretty bad shoulder injury that took quite a while to heal from that, but now we don't lift plywood anymore.
That makes sense. That repetitive motion, just all of that, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
So now we fork it right here, slide it off, and then we have some, let me go pull it over here. We've got them pushed out of the way because we're waiting on material. But we'll have these carts, and on the back of each bay, there's a customer. We've got their packing list. If for some reason there's new code needed, then there'll be a USB drive with it.
So this is like each customer?
Yeah, we divide them up. We've got 2 of these carts, and then from this point on, that job lives in that cart. So it'll get moved over to the routing station. Everything will get the edges rounded off. Then it'll get moved over, all get sanded. And then, all the sanding gets done at these 2 tables over here. And then it just comes on around and we ship them from right here. So all of our hardware is stacked up here. We use a 2-bin system for all the hardware.
Perfect.
To make it less likely to run out. That was,
If you run out of one, it's time to...
You've got the card right behind there, and you take it, and you got the QR code, scan the QR code, it orders it. It took a long time to get this set up, but...
worth every bit of it.
Hardware was and it still is in a way, was our biggest pain point when starting the business. Running out, ordering it and not being able to get it in time, being back ordered.
Yeah, you order a box of bolts, you expect to be here in 5 days, and it takes 3 weeks.
Yeah, so now we've got that part covered. Rarely do we run out of hardware. We're still working on making sure that the right amount of hardware gets in all the systems and that UPS doesn't bust the box apart.
Oh man, that
hardware.
Good luck on that one. With the company I work with, All Dogs Off-Road, we do a lot of shipping as well, and that is a constant pain point. Like we get a month or 2 where it's just beautiful and nobody's messing up, and then all of a sudden they lose 4 packages and they broke 7.
Yeah, we use these little baggies that we put them in, and we used to just put the baggie in, and constantly they would get busted and hardware would be coming out the corners of the boxes.
Yep.
So then we start rolling them up and taping around them.
Yeah.
And it's still amazing to me how bad some of these packages get beat up.
Yep.
There's only so much you can do, obviously.
Yeah.
But that is, right now, that's our number one focus, is trying to get better at making sure all the correct hardware is always in packages and that it's packaged as good as it can so it doesn't get damaged. And it's a constant learning process, because as soon as you think you got it figured out, they find another way to damage it.
Let's run back over to the CNC machine here.
All right.
So we were talking earlier. You bring that over, you roll it off.
Yeah, roll it right on here.
So that does that guy kind of raise up and down a little? Or
It doesn't. It's meant to roll at an angle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So kind of place and just bring it right up on there.
Because this is going to have a vacuum table on, and if you just try to slide it straight across, it's going to stick.
I gotcha.
So
that's what holds all this, just so you don't have to touch it as it's doing the CNC. That vacuum system holds it in place.
And lots of times we end up not even use the roller. We just raise the plywood up higher and kind of take it off at an angle this way.
Gotcha.
With the Ultraliner, it slides so easy on top of each other that we really don't need the roller.
So I see a lot of different bits that are down here. Is this a system where you have to be over here and involved in this process, or is it a plug and play? You do all the coding.
I do all the coding
and then put it in, and it takes care of the
It
rest.
automatically changes the bit. It raises and lowers these rollers. So it doesn't just have the vacuum. It also has, it usually has 2 rollers, but we've got one off making a change to it. These will go down and they press the wood down in case you have a really bad bow in the wood. It'll force it down. And then it changes all the bits. And that's been the biggest change. We actually, our old CNCs right here, it did not automatic tool change. And
so you had to have someone, or you had to be there in that time frame when it needed to be changed?
Well, we actually wrote code to not change bits, which means we were not using the optimal bit. Huge difference was it used to take about 1 hour and 15 minutes per sheet to cut out on this machine. I'm guessing it's about 15 minutes per sheet now.
Oh, wow.
It's enough to where we used to try to start the machine, go do something else, come back, and then unload it. But it's like you're wasting your time trying to even start anything else.
Right.
So when we first moved here and bought this machines, our plan was to rebuild this and be running both machines. But as you can see, it's set and become a catch-all because
It looks like a plumbing table now.
yeah, that's what's left of the vacuum system that was on it that we haven't put
Gotcha.
back together. We're running this probably 20% capacity. I'm guessing 8 hours on a 40-hour week because it runs so fast and it has so much more capacity to give. So I'm probably, if I get a little slow time this winter, I will get this thing back up and running so I can show people and just sell it. It's I don't see it adding anything if we
no
get to the
value add.
no value add. Yeah. If this thing's got so much more capacity now, if we get to the point to where we're running out of capacity, it would make more sense to buy another one of these.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Anywhere you can automate consistency and repeatable products, that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
And
not having to come over here and change the bit or change the programming to not be optimal, as you were saying.
Yeah. And this was never a production machine. I owned this CNC before I started the business. This was what I would call a high-end hobby machine.
Okay. So it's a startup machine.
It was, and it was great that I already had it. It allowed me to start up. But yeah, I was trying to make it a production machine, and it was just hard. I was having to replace parts often because they were wearing out. A lot of professionals use this machine, but they're using it as not production.
Prototyping, small one.
Yeah, or little parts here and there when they need the CNC, but they're doing a lot of other.
Gotcha. So this is like a back end. This is like, okay, this will add a benefit to have, but it's not something I'm going to use every day all day.
Yeah, it's not if you're a production. Yeah, it's just not built. It'll wear out too quick. Not to put this company down at all. It's a great CNC, but even they will tell you it's not a production machine.
Right. And you can see the differences in the design language from this to this. And this is a factory machine. This is I could see 20 of these in line somewhere just pumping product out.
The big thing I show people, because it's one of the few things you can actually see that's not covered up on this machine, is this motor here compared to that motor up there.
Right.
It's a.
Oh wow, that's.
It's quite a bit different. And this is kind of the low end of the production machines.
Okay.
It's about, I would say it's, the lowest end where you can get into automatic tool change, vacuum table, all that.
Gotcha.
They get quite a bit bigger and quite a bit fancier as you go up.
I can imagine. Because then it's becoming, manufacturing the world kind of scenario. Like, what are you making? I want to make a whole wall with this.
Yeah. This has been the biggest game changer. This and moving into this facility. We only have 400 more square feet that we're using here than we had in the building that's on my property. But it's a smooth floor with no post anywhere, whereas my floor has a lot of ups and downs, level changes, and has posts everywhere because it used to be a tobacco barn.
Oh, wow.
And
okay. Very cool.
To be able to move all around and set up a flow, it's changed our ability to get product out the door. Yeah. That was our biggest struggle. When we moved here, we were over 100 orders behind and had a 16-week lead time. And within 2 months, we were down to a 4 to 6 weeks lead time and keeping it where we want it to be, about 20 orders at all times.
Nice. That was perfect. I was just going to ask you what you're, in this process, what is the lead time for that?
And so we could get the lead time down more, but the fear would be running out of to where people are just standing around. At a good 4 week, that's a good turnover for a non-stocking company where we're cutting stuff to order.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have a warehouse full of all of these pieces pre-cut just
Yeah.
for sitting waiting to go out.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
Definitely has given us a good circular pattern. You know, material comes in, goes to here, goes to there, and then it ends up right back by the door. So
Once it's done at the CNC, it's kind of rough cut essentially, or is it pretty on point? You just have to do a little bit of touch-ups, a little bit of routing.
all these have been touched up since we've been waiting with no wood. It's a pretty clean cut, but it's going to be really sharp on the edges. Like you could probably slice your fingers on the corners when it's right off the CNC. Okay. And we just barely ease the edges with a router and then sand it.
Nice. Okay. And that's all done this one router right here?
The
right
router
now?
does all the edging. We use that 1/4 inch or that chamfer bit.
Nice.
And then we sand it using a palm sander. The amount of time we touch the product now versus when we first started and we built the whole systems and sprayed the whole systems is very little.
Just thinking more so just conversational wise, like when you take it from there, you come over here, you do that, the sanding aspect, is there a way, like you could come up with like a thing that would just, you could like automate, not automate,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying?
We
like,
have tried.
Like, here's a jig and you drop it in and you're just like,
I hope someday we can figure something out that works. We have tried. Matt, my employee there, he has tried a lot of different things to make it easier, a lot of flap sanders. It's a double-edged sword. Some of them have worked better at sanding as far as faster, but dust collection was just horrible.
You got to mitigate in these spaces.
Very huge. Like, we use all HEPA dust extraction for the sanders. The last thing you want is your guys breathing in that stuff because that's the most dangerous stuff. So we love the using Festool right now. We've been looking at a couple other brands of changing into, but if you look around here, you notice that there's not a lot of dust.
No, not at all. I was very impressed when we came back here. Typical wood shop, you just have that basic layer.
So the only place we typically get dust is from the CNC, and it's not when it's running. So something we do is we try to pack the kerfs. So, the kerfs are the space between the wood when it cuts. We try to pack it at the bottom with sawdust so it doesn't lose vacuum.
Ah, okay.
So you need, and based on the bit, you're using a down cut bit, forcing it down right there at the last cut. And that way it won't lose the vacuum. But now you have that layer of sawdust at the bottom of it that your vacuum on the CNC won't suck out.
Yeah.
The good thing is that's all the big dust. That's not the harmful dust. And it's there. Well, when we pull these pieces off, now we've got a table full of dust and some of it will fall off here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the only dirtiness that we get around here is from that. We spend a lot of time making sure the dust collection is working optimal and we try to keep it clean. And luckily, Matt is a neat freak, so
there's not enough of us in the world.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
he is always cleaning, and it's
I'm a firm believer in if you're not working, you're cleaning.
Yeah,
or you're prepping for the next.
So every morning, the first hour is 2-part. It's cleaning and anything that you can come up with that you think might make your workflow better. And it all goes back to even that two-bin system, the whole lean manufacturing way of thinking. And it's simple things like this was born out of it. The 3 tools that we use at the CNC are these 3 tools, and now you can just grab them.
Just grab them, ready to go.
And like this block wasn't originally there, it was a smaller lip. It was annoying Matt, and so he made a bigger lip. The whole thing is stop and fix. If you have a problem that's hurting you through the day, stop and fix it right then. Every day you need to be thinking about how can I make the job easier, make it just, even if it's only saving a second of just grabbing the drill like that.
Yeah, where can I increase efficiencies and make better processes? So, maybe one day you don't have to be doing it. Somebody else can be doing it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing we're working on hard right now is making for better or lack of a better term, just make the jig the expert, not the person the expert.
Right.
And so that's what everything we're doing is working on that. And Matt's spent a lot of time working on that as well, making little carts. Like we have a cart for every station that he's been working on, and it has the tools that are needed for that job.
I can't work today.
Yeah, there's no knife. So where is this knife at? Why is it not here? And that's trying to get that to where it's all fixed. So everything that he needs to ship is right here. Everything, he's got another cart right there for when he is doing the there's some parts that we still have little assemblies to do, and it's got all the hardware he needs. It's got the tools he needs. Like, for instance, our Expedition system, it comes flat packed, but the fridge mechanism is already put together, the sliding mechanism.
Right. That makes sense.
And so everything he needs is right here. Luckily, he's a naturally organized person too, so all this kind of came.
It worked out well.
Yeah, it works out well. I would say 75%, if I was just guessing, of our fridge slides are on driver's side. And I actually typically recommend that when people ask me what side, and that's mostly just so you don't get a blind spot from your fridge. Like if you're looking over your shoulder, you don't have your fridge there for a blind spot.
That's why I did the whole kitchen galley behind me.
Yeah.
So I could have as much back window as I could get.
Sometimes people have good reasons, like if their 60% seat is on their driver's side and they want to have a 60% sleeping platform there, then they want to put it on the passenger. A lot of Wranglers put it on the passenger because there's a bump in the door on the driver's side that makes you have to have a smaller fridge. So there are situations, but we by far do a lot more driver's side tilting fridges. Something back along the lines of, the whole organization, the carts, the new CNC. When we were at the old shop, right before we moved, we had 3 employees. It was me and 3 other employees, and we were struggling. We were falling further and further behind. Here now, implementing, the lean manufacturing processes and the new CNC, we're putting out more with 1 employee than we were even close to with 3 employees.
Nice.
And it wasn't because they were bad. They were
everyone
good
was
employees.
doing their job.
Yeah,
You're creating efficiencies.
We felt like we couldn't get something out the door. You couldn't have a flow like this, a circular flow. It'd be going from here to there, over to here, over there. And,
Right.
The building was a lot of it.
So this was a huge benefit coming into this space for you guys, like really, really bringing things, preparing for the future, essentially. Lean, mean, ready to go.
Implementing the building move and lean manufacturing at the same time, which, we talked earlier, you're Emmy as well. I don't know when you were in school, but when I was in school, lean manufacturing was really hot, especially with Toyota being here.
Yeah.
University of Kentucky is one of the, has one of the largest lean programs, or did when I was there. I'm assuming it still does. And so I knew about all this stuff, but honestly, I thought about it for bigger companies. And when I was about at my wit's end with hardware and everything, started digging back into it and found out that, over the past years, a lot of smaller companies are implementing it, and it's changing the way, we're working. It's still got a long way to go, but it's completely changed, our company.
I feel like the more I've gotten out there and done these awesome facility tours, these factory tours, it seems like the lean mean is the way to go. Like, implement as much, within reason, obviously, automation, coming up these great machines like this, and then really fine-tuning just the process. I'm excited about a few other people that I'm looking at that we're going to be meeting over the next few weeks, and just it seems like that seems to be the startup mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's by choice or by the only option you have, it's the best way to go.
Yeah, I think it's smart no matter what size you're at. And funny enough, this foam that we use, that I use in my some of my seat delete options, it's called Kaizen foam, and it's sold by a company called Fast Cap. I've been using this foam for quite some time, had no idea Fast Cap is a lean manufacturing company, and get on YouTube, and when I'm trying to learn more about lean, and Fast Cap's coming up over and over again, and like pretty much he is the leader on lean manufacturing.
Oh, okay.
And
I'll have to check that out.
That's where Kaizen foam came from, and he has an amazing company, and the things that he has implemented in his company, being that large and still running lean so well, it's been amazing, and we want to keep going that route. When I started, I had dreams of having rows of shelves of stock, and somebody orders something, we go pull it off the shelf and send it right then.
Yep.
And then you realize you have $1 million of stock sitting in a huge warehouse, and
it's all taking money. It's all taking dollars.
Yeah.
Yep.
The goal still is to figure out, and with lean manufacturing, we talked earlier about the 4-week lead time and how right now it scares me to be much less than that.
Right.
The goal with lean manufacturing is get to where when an order comes in, you're cutting it right then, and by the end of the day it's shipping, because right now it's less than 1 day for any product to go through the door except for the truck bed systems.
Nice.
And when you do, run out of work, you don't have things cut right then, that's when the people are supposed to be working on implementing more lean ideas, cleaning, maintenancing. We're not quite there yet, but that is the goal, to where get to that point, make an order today, it ships out depending on how many orders we get that day within a few days.
That would be really, really cool.
Without stocking anything too,
which is key, because I mean, like you said already, not having to pay for that warehouse space, not having to pay for that shelving space. And if you really wanted to go crazy down the road, you could look at sourcing warehouse space from many companies that exist today. So if that ever comes into fruition, or for need for that, that's always available through a third party system, and not have to put those investments in.
And we've also looked at other shops that could cut the product to where now one of the big reasons behind the flat pack was so we could go overseas. We have a lot of people from other countries that are wanting to bring the product in. The way it was, we couldn't do it because it was already built. It took up too much space. But then you think about, we're shipping plywood from Spain to here, having it laminated, then we're shipping it back over. Can we find a factory in Spain that can just take care of it right then?
Right, because they would just have to source the coating, right?
Yeah, we'd have to.
Or you'd find a coat.
Probably, if that exact product wasn't there, something similar that could be laminated on.
Gotcha.
And then have source all the hardware there and ship out. Obviously, that's way down the road.
Right. It's the recreate what you've basically perfected in essence here, and then take it and be like, okay, here's the stuff, you guys make it for the European market, into Asia, or whatever.
Exactly.
Area. So
it's
so I know the Asian market is booming right now for the overland outdoor. It is massive.
Well, and surprisingly enough, we've had a supplier from Israel reach out, and in my head I never thought about overlanding in Israel. We've had, there was another weird country that really caught me off guard. I was like, but
places you don't think about, right?
A lot of it is because of our, when we started out, we were very Toyota centric. We've since branched out, but Land Cruisers are everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And so, you can go to any country in the world and Land Cruisers are a popular overland vehicle. But, and speaking of future growth, the big plan for 2025 is, and it's something I've wanted to do all along, is the company is still SHW Off-Road, but used to all the logos were SHW Off-Road.
Okay.
It has slowly been changing. If you've noticed, it's just SHW.
Yes.
And the plan is vertical markets, first responder and construction.
That makes perfect sense. Eliminate the off-road, which kind of puts you into a world, right? And just open that up.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So potentially, and I'm sure you've got 20-year plan out for this kind of stuff, but like you're first responders, so you would essentially be doing kind of the build outs for those first responder vehicles, whether ambulance or those. Me and Braxton have torn apart a old ambulance, and I could see how this stuff could be a lot lighter, a lot stronger, and more durable than the current materials that they're using.
Yeah, that's, you think of just first responders, how broad of a term that is: search and rescue, firefighters, police officers, disaster response. And then you get into construction and you've got all the seat deletes, the vans, the beds of trucks. Nobody is going to beat your product. We think overlanders beat product up. Contractors are going to beat them up. They're going to have them loaded heavy every day. But that's also a perfect reason why this product is good for it. Right now, most things that are available for the contractor are sheet metal, and they're heavy. And they're putting heavy stuff in them,
Always overloaded. We think overlanders are overloaded. Go follow a contractor around for a day.
Well, I was a finish carpenter while I was going through engineering school, and I was the worst offender. I thought I needed every tool I could possibly have on there.
Of course you need every tool.
You got to have them all.
All of them.
Yeah. So that's the big goal for 2025, is to start spreading out into other markets. And I think of the Ultralight system. I may be crazy here, but I believe that, every mom could benefit from an Ultralight drawer system. They got their kids' sporting gear in one drawer. They've got their roadside assistance stuff in the other drawer and can still put, all groceries or whatever
Yeah.
on top of it.
Yep.
We go to Costco a lot. They don't give you bags at Costco. You can load the stuff into your drawers and then take your drawer into the house.
That's great. I didn't even think about that. Is excellent.
Yeah, and right now, you don't, outside of overlanding, you don't see people using drawers in their vehicle much.
No, it's definitely like a contractor utility use. Otherwise, no one really touches them.
Yeah, and in the contractor market, there's a few options available, and it's not that they're bad options, but I think nobody's thinking outside the box yet.
Yeah.
Or doing anything innovative.
Yep. Well, I'm excited to see what kind of products you come up with for these different professions. That'll be really cool. Just their vehicles and the things that you could create to improve their daily lives at work.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
It's just like, with us doing lean manufacturing, if you can save, a minute every day, those are the kind of things that make a big difference. Yep. If you can find 10 things that save a minute each time, all of a sudden, that's 10 minutes a day. And for me, at the end of the day, the worst part was loading up. I hated loading up my truck at the end of the day. And if you can make it easier, same with camp, breaking down camp. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much we chase setting up camp quick and breaking down camp quick. It's the same for a contractor, setting up the job, breaking down at the end of the day. Because you just want to get home.
Yeah, give 10 minutes tops. If it takes me longer than 10 minutes, I'm angry.
Yeah. No, it's, you look back at, we talked about my YouTube channel earlier. One of the things I built on there was a off-road camper. And my whole goal was, if I want to go camping this weekend, spur of the moment, all I want to have to worry about is putting fresh food in there. I want to have some clothes in there at all times. I want to have, toothbrush, deodorant, all that stuff in there, ready to go, all the cooking stuff. And when I would get to camp, literally you open the door of the trailer and you're in there.
Good.
You're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. Me and my partner have been traveling for a long time on the road, and we just purchased a house back in December. Mm-hmm. And I'm slowly, like, the vehicle we've been traveling in for 4.5 years is we're taking all the life stuff out. And now I'm like, okay, I need to leave this cooking item, these spices, the little things in there. And it's becoming like the, week or 2 week long trip vehicle now.
Yep. Yeah. But if it's always set up to like that, you're more likely to go at the spur of the moment.
Absolutely. You say, hey, let's go.
Let's go, yeah.
I don't have no setup. None of that has to be done. Just jump in, enjoy the weekend, come back, and you actually had a good time and not constantly worrying about, getting everything ready, all that fun stuff.
That's the number one goal right there. That's just be able to get in and go. And
ease of access. That's probably a good way to put it.
Yep.
Ease of access. Yeah.
For the past 3 years while I was, building this company in Commonwealth, kind of pretty much quit the hobby of overlanding, not out of choice, but just didn't have any time.
Yep.
And we're finally getting back into it, and it's just getting all the stuff set back up to where we can just go at a whim.
Nice. Well, next time you go on a whim, you let me know. I'll come join you.
Awesome. Yeah. If it needs to be ordered, it's here. So right now there's 2 things that need to get ordered.
Okay.
So I won't usually do it every day, but every couple of days I'll come out here and grab a stack of cards. And I've got the little QR reader just to be able to just go and order. And it tells me how many to order, what the average delivery time's been. And then once I order it, I put them down here. So this has been ordered. And actually, this morning we had a ton of these. Over the weekend, we had a lot of stuff come in. And so we were inventorying all morning this morning before you all got here.
Fill up those shelves.
Every little change makes things so much better.
Yep.
But it's also like it took a lot of time to make every single one of those cards. And
I mean, that's days of actual time spent. Who knows? It could take a month, but the days of actual time spent on making all that stuff.
It was a lot of days of me and my wife and my daughter's son helped a little bit, not as much, but printing them off, laminating, cutting them to the right size to where they'll fit on the bin. But it's a world change.
I needed exactly 3.5 1/4 inch.
Yeah. And we've got more to go still. Like you see, some of these don't have, we've still got some to go. They're all 2-bin systems, but they don't all have cards to where I have to still order those the old way.
Gotcha.
And we still got cards to make. I'll show you at the CNC and the forklift. I've put a card holder on the side of here that we 3D printed, and one on the side of the forklift. And there's going to be one on every piece of equipment that needs maintenance, basically. And the plan is 12 cards, color coded. So, you know, it's coming up at the end of the month. Let's say that October's color is red, and it's coming up towards the end of October. And if once we get to the point to where there is downtime because we're cutting stuff as soon as it comes in and we're no longer have a lead time, you look around the shop when you have nothing to do. If you see a red card, all right, it's October, we need to take care of that. And some of them will be daily, like on the compressor, we drain the compressor daily. So there needs to be a daily card that gets cycled through. And it's one of those things that there's not a lot of maintenance that has to be done to this. Right now, we do it by memory when we think of it.
That's not going to last forever.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't last forever, and it's obviously already on our mind that we need to make it a system. And that way, in the future, you know, if I'm not here, you know, we've got several employees here that are new. They have a color chart hanging up somewhere that says, you know, if it's red and it's October, it needs to be done.
Yep, these are the tasks that need to be completed.
And if it gets done to the last day of October, I don't care if we're, you know, 100 orders behind. If there's still red cards, you stop and you do all that and then go to the orders again.
Because without the machine working, you got nothing.
Yeah.
So that's your most important piece for sure.
Exactly. And we don't have a lot of things that need maintenance here. It's basically forklift, dust collector, compressor, and the CNC. All the other machines, they might have maintenance, but they're so rare that it's going to be like a once a year type thing.
Okay.
If that, you know,
Gotcha.
and we really don't use them anymore. The traditional woodworking tools
Yeah.
rarely get used. Typically, it's only on custom jobs or on if the CNC's messed up a piece because a piece has moved while it's been cutting. Some pieces it's just easier for us to cut it out on a table saw than to write code to cut that one piece.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So the piece is still fine. It just for whatever reason didn't complete or
Usually what
cut
happens
off completely.
if we've waited too long to re-clean our spoil board, like right now, all these little grooves are where places that air can get out on the vacuum.
Yep.
This is fine. It's still really good. What happens is this will get worse and worse, and it's human nature to, you know, put off resurfacing it, and you think it's good enough, and then it gets enough to where a piece just moves a little bit during a cutting and gets messed up.
Yep.
And it's rare, but it happens. But we try to resurface this, you know, as often as possible.
And resurface is like replacing this entire piece, or you actually just...
We just skin just a thin layer off here.
Yep.
And we'll do that until it gets about 1/4 of an inch thick.
Okay.
And then we'll just replace a new board. And this starts as an inch thick. So it's been surfaced a few times now.
Gotcha.
And you can see the horizontal lines going back and forth.
Oh, okay.
Right
That's the...
That's-
okay.
it's kinda like when you vacuum.
From this way, I can totally see the lines. Yeah.
So it'll go and it smooths it out. When it's freshly done, good luck getting that ply. You can't pull it off, you know, when it's vacuumed on.
There's no space to come off.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you're wanting to talk about the Ultralight?
Yeah. So you were mentioning out at the at your vehicle that you guys have the Ultralight, and it looks like you happen to have one of them in the shop right now.
Yeah, this was prototype for a two-door JK.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's two doors don't get a lot of love, and we've
Yeah.
been getting some more requests for it. Basically, you know, the whole drawer comes out. You can just carry it to where you're going to go. There's a lot of pieces and parts for it that are down in here, so.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
that's
Well,
basically the maybe 2 or 3 pounds heavier than a plastic tote. Like that feels good.
It's a little bit harder when it's not attached to a vehicle. It's moving all around.
And then you said what is the material you were saying that?
So this is UHMW,
UHMW.
ultra high molecular weight. It's basically anytime in an industrial setting, it's what you'll see used, you know, in place of Teflon.
Okay.
Little bit heavier duty, wears a little bit better. Not quite as slippery as Teflon.
Okay.
And
A
then
little bit harder material.
and then if you'll notice, like when we push these shut, they're going to raise up and then drop back down and latch in.
Okay.
That one I don't think is adjusted right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Prototype. Don't look at this one.
That's the reason it's sitting here covered in dust. We built this thing probably 6 months ago, just to make sure it fit. And then after it fit the vehicle, we refined it.
Nice. That makes sense. That's perfect. Simplicity, you know, like that's and that's in there solid. Like that's.
And the more weight you put in, the tighter it
more-
gets. So no rattling.
Nice.
Whereas with hardware, we try to make our expeditions have as little noise as possible. But when you have moving parts, there's going to be some noise. So there's no way around it. This system has no noise. Like if you've got your latches adjusted properly, and they have a adjustability and a slot forward and back.
Okay.
And on the wedge, we make it very shallow for closing. So it closes very gradually and easy. It raises up. But for the opening, it's a much steeper angle, and that's so it won't open itself. Like it's, no matter how much you bounce around, it's not going to open itself. It requires more. You almost have to do a little bit of a lift when you're opening it to get up that, because it's a 70-degree angle.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine with weight in there, obviously, I mean, I could see this being a very common tact of thumb.
Yep. And it's
Slide out.
typically what we see is when people first start out, they do it just like you did it right there, where it's they lift and then pull. After you've done it a little while and you get used to it,
You don't have
it
to.
becomes more of a fluid motion where it's angling and you're actually
Gotcha.
using that wedge.
I gotcha.
The first iteration we had of this was just a block and you had to lift and pull.
Okay.
And then we're like, well, why don't we just make it a wedge and use the same slippery material? And so, now you can actually just pull it and it will open up.
Perfect. I'm a big fan of simplicity,
Yeah.
especially in the outdoor space in general. I find that that's how you can stay out there longer, you
Yeah.
know? Like if you have stuff that's not going to break on you, and if it does break, you can fix it.
Yeah.
Go to a hardware store, like you're saying, and replace a couple screws, or pick up a latch, or pick up a drawer slide if you need,
Yeah.
and you're ready to go.
Well, and let's say somehow you're carrying your drawer and you drop it and something hits that wedge and rips the screws out. Well, you can just move it over and screw it back in, a half inch over.
Because you have that hole.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
base.
centered. We put it in centered, but we have pre-drilled holes there, but it doesn't have to be. And so it's things like that. It's
like it's not broken. Just move it. It's
yeah.
okay.
And the good thing is most people that are overlanding, they have that self-sufficient mindset. So their brain already works in the way of how they're going to figure out how to repair that. They don't.
They look for solutions.
They look for solutions, and they've got tools on them. They're ready to figure things out. And so you want to give them something that they actually have the ability of maybe fixing. We all carry all these tools. You might as well put them to use.
That's right. It's not going to break, but if it does, you can fix it.
Yeah, that's what I will tell you is that I can break an anvil with a rubber mallet, and so I've broke about everything
That's
you can break on
That's
these.
fair.
The machine part's not going to break. It would be, you couldn't put enough force to break the wedge before the
yeah.
screws would give out.
Right.
And that's another thing you always got to think about is designing your failure point.
Not designing it to fail, but
Yeah.
designing it to be the weak point. in
Yeah,
the
you
design.
want to choose, if something's going to fail, you want it to be the screw to pull out of the wood, not the wedge to break.
Right.
And early on, we 3D printed the wedges as opposed to having the machine, because it's very expensive to have the machine, but they could break on the 3D lines. And so right away, it's like, no, I'd rather a screw rip out than that. And that's actually one of the few pieces that we have to get made overseas. And it's one of the it's the most expensive piece per size on the Ultralight are those wedges.
Oh, wow.
Machining UHMW is not cheap. Someday we hope to go to injection molding and bring that process back to the USA because, as you can imagine,
That's a quantity game, right? To jump into
it's
the
a quantity
injection
game.
molding.
Yeah, it's the cost of the dies
high
and everything.
values.
Right now, if I could do everything, source everything in USA, I would. But I have two criteria. First, I want whatever product I'm using to be the best. So anybody out here who has done any cabinet making or bought domestic plywood, they know that is one place where USA suffers.
Yeah.
Domestic plywood is the worst plywood. Next to China. China may have some good plywood, but what they import into the U.S.
Not so much.
Yeah, they do it to get the cheapest plywood you can.
Right.
And then domestic plywood, no matter how much you spend, is just not quality and definitely not light. And so I have to bring that in from out of the country. And there's certain parts that you just can't get, that there's just not made.
Yeah, it's something that we're coming to realize as we're manufacturing different components at All Dogs Off-Road is that there are a lot of manufacturing limitations in America now that I didn't realize, you know.
I didn't either until when I started
I thought
this
we made a
company.
bunch more stuff than we do.
Drawer slides. If somebody knows of one, reach out to me. But to find like a beyond 36-inch long locking heavy-duty drawer slides, so I'm talking like for my truck beds, the 60-inch long drawer slides. If you can find them made in America, even companies that you think they're made in America, when you start actually researching, they're not. And then I was able to find a company that would custom make them for me, but the price got so astronomical that it's no longer even in the realm.
Gotcha.
You know, so that's something I would love to get from America. But like you said, it's just they don't exist.
We have become a global economy now, and for better or worse, there are certain components you have to source outside of the Americas.
Yep.
So that was a big eye opener, and like you're saying, I'm sure it was for you too. When you first jumped into it, what was your mindset? Were you like, everything's gonna be made in America?
My plan was to try to make everything to buy American, everything that I could. You know, because I'm a little guy in Kentucky trying to start up. I want to support all the economies around me.
Right.
And I always thought that I might have to get something here or there, but I never dreamed to what extent. About the only thing that I've been able to get to America that surprised me is all my fiberglass is made in America.
Nice.
Like the plant is, I can't remember if it is Alabama or Mississippi, but it's one of the southern states there to where it's all getting manufactured there, which was super nice. But almost all of my hardware, very little bit of it is American made.
Yeah.
And that just seems to be something that's not made in America anymore.
Yeah. I mean, all of Fastenal and Granger?
Granger. Yep.
None of that stuff.
Yep.
I think they source maybe like 10 or 20 of their SKUs are American made. The rest of it's internationally gathered.
Yeah. That being said, a lot of people think about anything from another country is bad, but this plywood, the best plywood that I can find.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, every country has had its core manufacturing or its core, productions that it import or exports out of its country, and Spain. Yep. Apparently is their plywoods.
Baltic birch, Russia.
Yeah.
You know, they have amazing Baltic birch plywood, right? You know, which actually the whole reason I was able to find this was when Russia invaded Ukraine and you couldn't get Baltic birch for a while.
Yep.
I started searching every country I could, and this is, what I came up with. And now that I can get Baltic birch again, I would never go back. You have to look at why is something imported. Is it imported because it's a cheap knockoff, or is it imported because that's what the country's good at doing? Like,
right.
Anytime people ask me about Overland products in general, I tell them it's not a 100% rule, but if it's coming from Australia, South Africa, or South Korea, it's probably good.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
I would agree with that
Those
statement.
three countries, they're making good products, but every other country outside of the USA, I probably wouldn't import it unless I did a lot of research.
I would want to go visit the factory kind of thing.
Or see somebody that's got that product and
Agreed.
has had it for a while.
Agreed.
I'm a huge DIY person, and I think something that's unique about us as a company is not only do we still offer plans for sale for some of our earlier products.
Oh, nice.
So if somebody is very handy, the fact is it costs a lot to ship these across the country. If you have the ability to do it yourself and you have access to decent material, I am very pro DIY. You can get exactly what you want. A lot of people buy our plans just to get the contour of the wings so they can print it out and trace it and contour the wings.
Yep.
We don't do plans for every vehicle that we have just because the return on and time investment wasn't there early on. I was making them. But I very much love being on all the forums and seeing the stuff that people have done for themselves. And, might not be the smartest thing, but I encourage people that if you can build something that fits exactly how you're going to use it, that's always going to be better than something that is, I don't want to say mass produced, but, we're basically, it's more of a cookie cutter.
Right.
Every design is specifically for that vehicle. A lot of companies, they build one box size.
And it fits.
Yeah, and then they add the big wings on either side.
Yep.
Every box that we sell is as big as we can make it for that specific vehicle.
Perfect. And then you're just using the wings to cover up the wheel well or
the
the
wheel
unsightly section.
The place where the box physically can't be. Yeah. When I first started the company, I told myself I never wanted to do this for a living. I was working as an engineer at the time, and I was like, there's just no reason for me to. And people kept asking. So when I first started out, it's like, all right, what I'll do is I will cut stuff out on the CNC, drill the holes for you, send it to you, let you build it. It was still, you know, they need to be glued and nailed together. Still more of a, you had to have some level of skill. And that's how we started. And I just would flat pack these raw wood cutout pieces. And I realized pretty soon that the person that is buying that kit from me is buying it because they don't have the ability to build one themselves most of the time.
Right.
And they also did not have the ability to do that level of a DIY kit. So then I hadn't come up with an idea of how to bolt them together the way we have now. So we just started building them and shipping them out pre-built because it was less headaches than having to deal with
the constant.
Or people that had cut our system with their circular saw.
Oh no.
It's like, why did you cut that? You should have never cut it. But and then eventually back to the flat pack again. But now we call it IKEA if IKEA was made with good wood.
Nice.
You should be able to bolt this together.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. I really like making things. And I like improving it too, like inventing new things, designing new things. I like that.
On that note, I want to say thank you so much for having us out, man. Like, this is really, really cool. I'm always ecstatic beside myself when I get to go to an up-and-coming company that's making quality products that are affordable and, you know, modular and fixable. Like, every aspect that you've hit is a big core principle for me. And I'm really, really liking it. I appreciate you having us out here.
I appreciate you guys coming out. I could talk about this kind of stuff all day.
Absolutely.
I love it.